Yeah, I'm recording now.
I present this to you for what it's worth. What you see is three points on a line across the top of the screen. I have control of those points. I can move any
Well,
one
you're
of
not,
those.
you're not sharing that screen with me yet.
Oh,
I
good.
can
That'll
watch
allow
it, though.
that will allow me to start my presentation. My presentation over again. Ooh. Cancel. Well, wait a minute. I want to share. Oh, share screen looks different now. Our screen. Oh. Okay, am I sharing now?
Oh, yeah, okay. So I see a notepad.
Right, a notepad. So let's try to change screens. Oh, this looks different. Are you still there?
I'm still here. I'm just watching.
I've apparently lost control of my computer.
Oh, nice.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get.
Uh-oh. Seems like we lost Gary. Well, okay. So until Gary comes back, I am going to make a cup of tea.
Oh, wow. You there?
Hey, Gary. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I just decided to make a cup of tea. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm still here. I'm looking for something now. I've got to start my presentation in a different place. I had to shut down. I did something that Zoom didn't like, but it pretty much locked my computer.
Why? What were you doing?
Well, I was trying to share my screen, but I couldn't really get to any of the screens that I needed to. But then when I found a way into it, it was like, whoa. I think I'd created some sort of infinite loop. But I was looking in my history, trying to find. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you. I just want to go to fuse.io. Okay, are you still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Share. Okay, now what this Fuse.io is sort of a wallet that allows you to create your own token and distribute it in your community.
Huh. So, and what they just made a slick UI for it?
Yeah, it's a little app, and I don't know what to make of this. They showed this. Joachim and Michael got a demonstration of this morning, and
Is this different than what about the other thing they're working with Dig Life?
yeah, that DAO Alliance and Telos blockchain thing.
Yeah, is that still happening?
Yeah, it is. And Joachim has taken a full-time position with the Telos project.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he said it's 80% full-time. And I asked him what did he see
Steve.
this Fuse tool being. I said, and that was what I asked him. Did he anticipate using this on the Telos project? And he said, well, Telos has got its own blockchain, but he sees that this thing is going to go blockchain independent. This
Fuses.
Huh?
Fuse is going to be blockchain independent.
Yeah, well, the whole effort of his Telos project, that DAO Alliance thing, is going to go blockchain independent. And he sees something like Fuse as being a way to sort of a connection point of all those different blockchains and new tokens that we could create.
Was this a Dig Life meeting this morning?
Yes, at the Dig Life
At the-
Ask Anything Monday call.
Oh, I knew I should have been there. I was trying to get there in time, but like I was trying to get to my studio and I was locked out of the building, so I had to come back to my apartment. So that's why I was late today. It's Martin Luther King Day, so the whole building was locked out of I couldn't get in. So all right, so that's because like the last 2 Dig Life meetings I went to, no one was even there.
Yeah, it's been slow over there lately.
Because the holidays and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad. I mean, I kind of realized it's like, all right, everyone's been like traveling and stuff, and I've been traveling, so I've been like not as present as I would have liked to have been. But I think starting like now, like people are probably getting back into the swing of things, right?
But I didn't have time to ask Joachim if this thing would handle non-fungible tokens. But,
Yeah.
But I see this thing as being a way of us implementing our art on the blockchain ideas, in a wallet.
Well, I guess the question is, why wouldn't we use the RChain wallet? If we're going to be using RCat, I don't know if you weren't there for that meeting. We met with the RCat folks a couple of weeks ago. Steve brought them, and it looks like we're going to be like trying to work with them a little bit. And like, I don't know.
I see no problem with working with the RCat folk, but what I'm saying is we don't have a web interface to RChain yet that a community can use. And this thing gives us that. So anyway, that's just an idea that I'm having, and Michael and Joachim are also having ideas around this thing. So I throw this out there for this Art on the Blockchain group to be considering. Another thing I learned about was this thing called, it's something related to IPFS, and I wanted us to all look at that. Hold on. And Steve, the reason I'm having to go into my history and try to find that is because I tried to share this with you earlier and did something that froze my computer up. I had to start killing processes to get back in control. And I thought I was going to have to restart the computer, but I finally got enough of Zoom, I think, was confused, and I was using Zoom in a different configuration this morning, but that's keeping me away from what I wanted to show you. Here it is, it's OrbitDB.
OrbitDB.
Yeah. Peer-to-peer databases for the decentralized web.
Ooh.
It runs on IPFS.
Ooh.
OrbitDB is serverless distributed peer-to-peer database.
Now, you can't serve. I mean, can you serve real-time applications from this? No.
I don't know. But what I'm just saying is, I thought that this thing was something that we should look into.
This looks cool. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm down. Yeah, I mean, leveraging a slick user interface for having people work with a wallet. If RChain doesn't have an interface for their wallet, then we do need something.
We do, but I see us being able to leverage that further away and going the route thinking of going now and then tying, you know, still tying RChain and RChain Wallet to it, but tying it in at a lower level, so to speak, but trying to go through that Fuse IO first. But there's so many unknowns about that Fuse IO. I wished I had been in the meeting with Joachim and Michael this morning. They were describing it in the Dig Life meeting. This is interesting. I'm giving you secondhand meeting about a meeting that I heard about in the previous meeting.
That's beautiful, Gary. I love that. That's something really poetic.
Yeah.
Nested meetings.
You know, and
Like Inception.
The third thing I wanted to show you, and I haven't showed this to either of you two. I don't think I've shown it to you, Steve, but I want to try to pull it back up. Well, no, what I was going to say is because my the screen froze up earlier, I will be able to go through the whole process with you, because I have to. Whoa. Have to find the file again. So we're going to go to, here's Dig Life. No, not Dig Life. Here is a Colab server in the, thought I was in the blockchain art. Yeah, well, I don't want to be in the blockchain art. I posted this originally in the DApp developers channel. The last time I showed this, Steve and Eric, was in the DApp developers meeting, and Jim, he is so intuitive. He captured the link needed to go to the page that I'm going to show you now, because I think this is applicable to our group. Okay, I'll tell you what we just went to. We went to a link in the DApp developer channel, which is to a program, a web interface to a program called GeoGebra. GeoGebra is the best way I can describe it is a geometry editor. So Steve, you remember Greg's Casper from
Yeah,
a
that was
couple of
good.
weeks ago when he
Yep.
introduced the Plane.
Yeah.
So Eric, the Plane is a geometry. It's a non-Euclidean geometry that abides by a slightly different set of axioms. The most important difference between, say, the Euclidean geometry is that in Euclidean geometry, parallel lines exist that never touch. In the plane geometry, or more generally, projective geometry, all parallel lines meet at the same point on the horizon. So it turns out that in the plane, that you must have at least 2 points, a line, and they must describe a line. And in the plane geometry, you must also have a third point. So let's call that C here. So A, B are the endpoints, and C is the A is another point on the line. Notice it's on the line, so I can move that point left and right on the line, because that's where it's defined, only on the line. I can't move it up or down. However, since this is the point A and I've defined it, I can move it up and down within the geometry or within the editor. Either end I can move around like that. Now, in the final plane geometry, there must also be a point not on the line. So let's let that point be D. I've specified a point in the not on the line, and it's D, and there it is. I can see I can move D around. Okay, the final plane geometry says there must be a line between every point in the final plane, and so that suggests the drawing of the line you see between A and D, C and D, and B and D.
So it's like basically using 3 points for orientation.
Yeah.
As
Now, the
opposed
final plane geometry says there must also be at least 3 points on every line. So the first line we have to consider is the center line. So that allows us to designate one more point down here, F. Notice D, I selected a point in the plane. I can move it around anywhere. I need one more point on the line from C to D, and I say let that be F down here. So remember, as above, C was on the line. It can move left and right, but not up and down. F is on the line. It can move up and down.
Oh wait, is this like fractal? So like basically like this pattern repeats itself going forward into the future?
This is exactly what this is. Now notice it can move D anywhere in the plane, up or down, left or right. I can only move F up and down the line that D forms with C. Okay, now just to belabor this final plane geometry, one more bit. I'm going to say, now let's consider the point B and F. That's between that first point we chose in the plane and then the other point on the line we chose. It doesn't really matter which point on the line we choose, but you know, let's choose one on the line. Now, that gives those first 3 lines we had to draw through D, that gives 3 points on that line, but it still leaves only 2 points on the line from A to D. So we say, why not select the point on where C intersects with G down here? So that allows us to select 2 more points. This one here and this one here. This one is not labeled. I think it's supposed to be E.
So if you wanted to select K, then you would have to select L basically to put everything on that line if you wanted D to be the intermediating point.
But at any rate, notice the rectangle from E, B, G, and F.
Yeah.
Are quadrilateral. It's notice that I can notice that as you go towards any of these A, B, or C, the next cell is a slightly different projection of the the cell in consideration. As you go up, it's a slightly different projection. As you go down, it's a slightly different projection. So what we have done was 6 points, and we're free to we're free to choose these 6 points. We can project this quadrilateral, just in a algorithmic fashion, but immensely programmable fashion to produce what you see on the screen now. Thoughts?
So can you help me understand how would you, so you have this shape, and the shape it shows you dynamically how by changing different points within these intersecting lines, it changes all the other points, in perspective. But what does this help you do, calculate? This is obviously a tool for helping you understand something, but I don't really understand what
the most I can say so far is that it has been
I think
immensely curious. I recommend, I hope it's not addictive, but I recommend you go to the link in the DAP channel. I'll put it in the Art on the Blockchain channel now, just for documentation purposes. But just go to this link and play with this thing. But what I can tell you about this GeoGebra program, this thing is like it's like Excel on, I don't know, differential equations or something. But for instance, I can take this program now, and if I knew which buttons to click, and I don't want to struggle through that on the screen, but I could tell it to in a stepwise fashion reproduce for viewers the production of this. I call it a construction. If they could reproduce the construction of this for you, and I think people's take on this is, well, this is obvious, or like in my case, this is profound, but I don't know why, and I don't know what to do with it.
in the context of the Casper stand-up from, I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, with the Fano plane that Greg was talking about. So with the Fano plane, you can have reductions, meaning you have triangles that merge together and taking a shape and forming a new shape. And it was a sort of a visual representation of what's happening with Rolang. So with Rolang, you have a line of code where you have reductions. You're doing calculations to come up with an answer, and so the Fano plane is a visual representation of that, a very elementary. So and beyond that, Greg really didn't get into any use cases or applications or anything like that. But if for anyone who's listened to this video, they can reference Gary, maybe you know what Casper stand-up number that is, but to really understand the Fano plane and how it relates to RChain and Rolang, you have to first maybe watch that at Casper Stand Up. And apparently there's some RCasts out there as well. I haven't watched the RCasts that are related to Final Plane, but they may be helpful as well.
So it's basically a visualization of something that's happening computationally in R with R chain right now.
Right, exactly. That was the underlying why the topic came up in Casper Stand Up, and that's kind of the venue for Greg to talk on the research he's been doing in various fields.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know if you get a chance and you find that video. Feel free to post it in the.
Yeah. I can do that. This is a video that I transcribed, so I know how to find that transcription of it. But I'll put it in this channel along with the link to the Final Plane. I'm encouraging everyone to go play with, because I think this thing is just cruising with I don't know if the word I want to use is creativity, but it's like this thing suggests so many possibilities to me. Just by its nature, it's very suggestive of things, and I keep trying to correlate these points A, B, and C, D, and F with things, with other things, and then think about the way they react to these different points.
And there's a visual appeal about it as well. To me, there's an aspect of art to it.
I was wondering that myself. I see this projective geometry business is very much involved with the way that artists convey depth in their work.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting. It's a visual. Art is so many times so visual, and then a realm of art which is computation. It's art. Sort of morphing into something else, but you get to see the underlying computation on what this transition is going from the original state to the transformed state. Maybe there's a new artistic perception there.
This thing is very, very algebraic in its internal language. And over here, see, I could just open up a tab and see the way that everything you see on the screen is represented algebraically.
Mm-hmm.
My battery's about to go dead. Let me attend that. I've been having technical issues today. But,
yeah.
To me, this immediately suggests not redoing all this in Haskell, but taking the algebraic output of this thing as a program and then porting it to Code World. They're just dropping it on Code World, and a much better coder than myself could immediately start using a different take on a geometric representation and play games with it.
Yeah.
But like I say, this is, and we haven't even touched on this thing you see over on the right, this three-dimensional thing. See, I want to develop same thing, starting from a different dimension.
Mm.
Because the fact that you see that this has a representation in 3 dimensions, is just so suggestive. It turns out that what we're seeing on the screen is a projection of a of a slice of let's see, I haven't quite decided if it's a cube or a tetrahedron, but you're seeing a projection of that into the screen. But I'm not sure if that adds much to the excitement about how cool this thing is.
Yeah.
And I've done things like try to import images into my grid so I could play some games with perspective, and but I haven't had much luck with that. This program has got some overhead as far as learning goes, and it's easy to get yourself in a situation you can't get out of. And this will be like the 6th time I've had to start over from playing with this thing, but you can go to some interesting places with it. Like I say, I highly recommend clicking on that link, and then
Is it just written in JavaScript, you think?
I think so. It's all in the web browser.
Yeah, I mean, well, what's interesting is have you guys checked out p5.js at all?
No.
No.
Let me bring that up real fast.
Let me try to stop sharing. Okay.
Oh no. Just trying to bring up the let me screen share. You can see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is p5.js, which is like a browser-based coding environment for doing like graphic visualizations. And so you see that there's like all these different examples here just in the website of things that people have made using like 3D shaders, 3D geometries. I don't know what any of this is, but like you can basically simulate these kind of shapes by running very simple code, let's see, particle system. So you can simulate particle effects. I mean, the game of life, flocking. Oh, this one's mouse activated. So if I click and then drag the mouse, it kind of creates different. Yeah, I mean, it's like an interesting because like there's a lot of stuff that exists with doing like visualization, and you used to only be able to do this in your this didn't used to be possible in the browser, but now you can do all of this stuff in the browser, it's based in JavaScript. It's just like a variant of it that's designed to help artists make stuff. So people do some really crazy stuff. Physics effects. I mean, this is really simple stuff. People do like really incredible stuff with this.
Yeah.
I don't have any good examples on me. Oh, that's cool. So it's actually locating it within like a 3D physical space. I'm trying to find examples. Yeah, anyway, you get the general idea.
I can see why what I was showing you led, made you think to share that.
It's not the same thing. I get that they're doing very specific geometry with that, but just in terms of these like sort of browser-based visualization environments, this is like what a lot of like artists use to create more complex like things, and also what's the other one? 3.js? No. Oh, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, yeah,
that's most interesting. I immediately see possibilities there.
Processing. It's so P5 is based on a coding environment called processing, which was developed maybe 15 years ago at MIT, which was specific. Now it's taught in every university, basically. If you're in a design program, this is what they teach you to learn how to do creative coding. And so people that are doing complex geometry visualizations for architecture use it. People that are using creating generative design patterns for design stuff use it. People using web interactives, you could create you can plug Arduinos into your computer and then have like serial connections to it to like get data in and out, and have it like control interactive projections or like lighting installations, like it was like this totally fluid coding environment with lots of libraries that you could throw into it. So things for doing different types of generative 3D design, sound design, like all this stuff, like people would develop libraries, load it in, and then you can sort of code it really quickly, and the other thing about it is it's kind of like a variant of JavaScript, but it's simpler. So the baseline functions, they have things like draw circles, and then you can just draw circles, right? And it's like you don't have to code the circle. It's like a function that already exists. If you know what I'm saying?
Hey guys, I gotta drop off. I got a couple things I need to do. I'll see everybody next week though.
Yeah, cool, Steve. Hopefully we'll start. I'm gonna lock down my schedule, but hopefully I'll start being here. I think starting this week on a more regular basis.
Okay.
One thing I did want to talk to you guys about, we don't have to discuss this right now, but I want to try to take sort of the culmination of what we've done so up to this point, like the videos that we've been uploading,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to try and use them for an exhibition in March.
Okay.
I don't know how yet, but I'm starting to download them and watch them and sort of figure out if there's some way, if I'm trying to source a bunch of small screens.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking about trying to do something where I kind of pull pieces of our conversation out and then use them to tell a story about what we've been doing for 6 months as kind of like a working process for okay, this month we were talking about this, and then we were talking about that, and then sort of
right.
Edit 10-minute. I don't know if this is gonna be possible because we've got 30 plus hours of footage, but edit 4 to 6 10-minute sections of conversations that we've had, and then splay them around kind of like a physical room. It's going to be part of a larger exhibition where I'm also going to I would do what I've been saying I was going to do for months, which is draw up diagrams of things. But I'd like to sort of have there's a sort of side room for this gallery that I'm doing my thesis exhibition in. And I want to sort of dedicate the side room to the blockchain art group. And basically have short videos with like what's called a didactic. It's like a little wall text thing that sort of explains to
Mm-hmm.
people like what we're doing and
Yeah.
how to sort of see it. Like I just sort of run that by you guys and see how you felt about me including some of the content from our conversations in that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Anything to help move the effort along and create that awareness.
Gary, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, it's most interesting. I was thinking I would not want to go through 30 hours of the recordings we've made,
I know it's a lot.
but you take an interesting snapshot of those events by selectively editing out small pieces. I would not want to do the project. I would probably watch the project.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I kind of just settled on this in the last few days because I'm really trying to figure out how to. I have this exhibition. It's opening March 28th. You guys are all formally invited to come to Buffalo for the exhibition. It's gonna be like a big party, but starting basically March 1st, I'm gonna start loading things into this gallery space. It's like this big kind of cool industrial space in Buffalo. And I've been really struggling for the last few months really about how do I talk about what I'm doing, like just in general. I've got like all these kind of things in process that I'm involved with, and I want to figure out how to story tell about what we've been talking about and like some of the ideas and like what are sort of some of the higher level ideas that we're talking about, and then what are some of the more nuts and bolts ways of approaching those things. Like we spent a good deal of time talking about Keybase, so maybe I include some material from like our Keybase conversations and like why were we talking about this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then like have like sort of diagrams explaining like what is the function of distributed storage and identity management and like a sort of wallet, right? And then like now we're talking with RCAT, and it's like, well, what is that? Like, how does that work? Without like going into like the technical, like going too technical, because it'll just go over a lot of people's heads for a general audience. But like, I think the ideas themselves are kind of important. And so I think including our conversations as a way of storytelling, like, okay, there's this community that exists that's been sort of meeting weekly and talking about these things, and this is sort of what that engagement looks like, and like that, which is very much as much a part of the process as the end result, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which is something that Gary, like we kind of talked about maybe like 3 months ago at some point, where we were like, yeah, like we'll use the videos that we're creating right now as the art.
Right. Right.
And like this is like going to be sort of like that, but like I'm not necessarily framing these videos and saying, okay, this is art. It's more about like exhibition design and telling a story. I think like I'm not like setting up anything in the gallery as like fine art objects that get sold, but I'm using the gallery space as a vehicle for sort of storytelling about the process. Although if we were able to actually finally edition an art object, that would be interesting and cool, but we're not there yet. So like, I'm just like, you know what, let's just stop, or like, let's just frame out what we've been talking, the conversation, and just make the show about, or part of the show at least, about that conversation, you know?
Yeah, that's all interesting. So, since I got to go, so I'll pick up with the conversation on that next week. But I like the idea.
Cool. All right.
Cool. I'll see you guys.
Peace, Steve. One of the things that like, so 2 summers ago in New York, you know, Steemit and you know Steemit, Steem, that blockchain Steem, STEEM.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They had set up like a gallery in Bushwick next to where Consensus has their office. And it was like when all the blockchain people were moving into that neighborhood in Brooklyn, which is my neighborhood, right? And they were having these exhibitions where they were showing like, okay, here's DTube, D as in David, TUBE, which was their decentralized YouTube clone. And like, here's our Instagram clone, and here's our blah blah blah. And like, they had like basically these wall printouts explaining what these different products were that they were developing on the Steem ecosystem and trying to sort of make it accessible to the public. And they actually did a fairly good job, you know, at sort of using the gallery environment to sort of story tell about what this thing is, you know?
That's interesting. I can see how what you're doing now differs slightly from our idea of using the output of the project as the art, but no. I like that. I like that idea of letting it be, you know, a part of a poster presentation in an exhibition.
Yeah, you guys are going to be the stars of the exhibition. Um, and um, and then I'm going to do a performance with Dungeon Master, which is that other crazy project that I'm doing where I give those academic speed metal lectures.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, I showed it to you. I'm like developing, I'm releasing an album that's a PowerPoint album called Fear and Trembling on the Blockchain.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I did see that. Okay.
and so I'm going to do a performance of that also in the gallery space as well.
So you call that academic metal?
Academic speed metal. Yeah.
Academic speed metal. Okay.
And so we're in the process of mastering the audio tracks, and I'm gonna just do like one wall projecting that presentation, which will be on loop, and then like diagrams on the other walls, and then like this group will be in like a side corridor area where people can sort of walk over, and they'll be like, hopefully if I can find, I need to figure out where to get screens, but like there'll be like little 10-inch like digital picture frames or iPads with little headphones coming off that people can put on to listen for like 5 to 10 minute like intervals, you know?
Yeah. But notwithstanding these ideas that Greg are presenting now are, they look to me much deeper than, or at least their implication seems to be much deeper than just blockchain.
What Greg is talking about?
Yeah.
Huh. So I should catch up and watch what he's been watched the last thing, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's all I can think and talk about. So I'm, you know, I would, even if it were to come back and say, you know, I'm going overboard with this, but you know, it's gotten to me thinking about what does geometry even mean?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I'm not very educated about geometry or like any of these principles, so it's hard for me to really understand what the implications of it are outside of just creating a perspective visualization. Like I don't really understand how this applies to computation or like other stuff. Like yeah, but I'm very interested to understand what you guys are talking about.
But you know, one of the first shocks I got when Greg introduced this idea was the ability, the ability to axiomatically define a geometry. And I always thought of Euclid and all of that, of Euclidean geometry as the geometry, the only thing that could be created.
Yeah, I thought they kind of settled it. This is it. This is how it works. This is like the thing. Like, you learn this thing. If you don't learn this thing, we're gonna fail you. Eric, stop staring out the window. Eric, stop staring out the window. We're gonna fail you. That was basically geometry for me.
Yeah, and it was. I don't know why this is so awe-inspiring for me, but
well, it's interesting. Like,
if you think that what you're doing lead to the only possible outcome, then you think that what geometry is the doing of that only possible thing. But once you realize that there's an infinite number of geometries you can create, a very that was sort of the big insight from Greg. He proceeded to create a final plane geometry in his little 1-hour Casper presentation, and then show that he could encode that in the row calculus.
Okay.
Now, to me, to harken back on that thing I was sliding around on the screen, the perspective, let's call it the perspective drawing. Well, one of the things that has come upon me is geometry is both drawings and axioms and or constructions, equations. But it's all those three things at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, does this have anything to do with how like a GPU calculates things? Because like, isn't there geometry involved with how a GPU functions and calculates 3D information?
I did not know that. I mean, you may be something I need to investigate.
I thought that's the whole point of a GPU, is that it calculates like these types of geometric data.
Well, I did know that GPUs were useful in doing projections and translations and things that graphics processors would be required to do, but it never occurred to me that it could be connected to this. I'll have to think about that.
Because think about
everything you've said has hit right in the sweet spot of my need to go investigate
Because
those.
basically, if you think about it, like, um, proof of work uses GPUs, right? Because they have superior like geometric processing capabilities. And if Greg developed a new type of row calculus, which is designed to run on a distributed network of GPUs, then something about the way that this geometry works, this non-Euclidean geometry works, maybe accelerates his ability to perform computations on these distributed GPU networks.
I, wow.
But I don't really, I don't know what that means. I guess I don't really understand how this works,
I know enough about them to start seeing the connection immediately, but I wouldn't have if you hadn't have brought it up. So I don't know what caused you to bring it up from our conversations, but well done.
I mean, I'm just going on riffing off of what you're saying.
It makes me want to know more about how GPU processors work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of information because all the blockchain folks, like the Bitcoin folks, are like, always trying to optimize their mining operations.
Yeah, a lot of financial incentives to make those things work better. Direct financial incentive. You work better, more Bitcoins every day. Your mine farm. Yeah, that's good. I guess I need to be going now as well. I've been trying to share that GeoGebra thing everywhere I can go.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing it. I'll look at this Fuse thing, and I'll try and make it to the Dig Life Wednesday meeting, the Open Dig Life Wednesday meeting. I don't know. I want to figure out, like, I guess a few things, like, just because, like, I feel like I'm like sort of in a very unfocused headspace right now, and so like I think like starting to show up to more RChain and Dig Life stuff will help me sort of get more focused and like figure out like, what do we want to work on here? Because I think we sort of formulated like a half plan like a week or two ago, but then like it was the holidays and like I was moving and it's just like all this stuff, and so we like
Maybe we should go back over that plan again and talk things out in light of recent development.
Yeah, I'd like to like sort of figure out like, because basically like the whole idea of working with the RCat folks and them actually developing that solution specifically with our project in mind puts this in a completely different place, right? Because it becomes a lot less speculative at that point. Which I don't know how I feel about.
Well, I see that as us defining our product for them.
I mean, fundamentally, what we need to do is start developing a rolling contract based on the artist's rights and transfer sale agreement, and just start blocking out like what parts of it we think are doable and then what parts are more difficult, and sort of creating an action plan based on breaking that thing down. Because then like if we're going to just do it all in RCat, like the media, here was the other cool thing that we talked about, was creating our own, with Ned, we were talking about creating our own RChain node specifically for art, because they don't have sharding yet, but like we're going to need sharding. So we're talking about running our own testnet with a bunch of artists. So like basically we all spin up like a, let's say a terabyte on like on a cloud, and then we all collectively host one a block, a decentralized block that contains all the media files, and and therefore we're not paying gas, because it's going to be really expensive eventually to run it on mainnet. So what we want is just the mainnet stuff to be the contract. And we were talking with Lamouette, I forget his name, about implement. And Jim was really bringing up this idea of implementing an ERC 1155 token, which apparently Lamouette is working to implement on our chain, which is kind of a combination of a few other tokens that exist on the Ethereum system, but they're migrating to this 1155 now. So that could basically be like a stand-in non-fungible token, which will work natively on our chain. But then we can have doubled on Ethereum for like selling it, you know. But it would like it would be a non-fungible standard that we could use to encode the information in about the object. So like all those things kind of just have been sort of bubbling up. But we needed to sort of meet more, talk more about it. But that was sort of where we left things last.
All right.
How do you feel about all of that?
Sounds good. Yeah, I think we can. It would do us to go back over that list in the sort of the order you talked about.
Because the other thing was like, oh, there was something about like RChain wallets. I sat in on like an RChain wallet group once. I mean, it's hard because like I'm busy, so like I don't have time during the week to sit in on all the RChain meetings. Like I want us to be able to do more, but it's like it's kind of like they're always in the middle of the day, and like I'm running around doing stuff, so I can't always just like make time to sit in on them. But there was something about RChain wallets, and then there was a thing about testnet, and then 1155s, rolling contract. Okay, so the whole thing with RCat was like they're kind of just doing it in parallel, and so then if we start developing some type of usable rolling contract, then we can sort of seamlessly integrate those things later on with them. That was like sort of where we left it with them. So what it means is just like it looks like we're getting more heavily like in with the RChain group, like basically everything is going to get more consolidated into the RChain ecosystem, as opposed to bringing in like outside things to integrate with it. But then presumably we'll have something that's usable. But it's all reliant. It's going to be all within RChain. That's like what it seems. But RCat, what it'll do is, we'll be able to stream media content directly from the block, from the testnet block, which will then be cached locally on the person's computer. And they basically have the infrastructure for that, which is basically a huge thing that I really wasn't like considering, or I wasn't prepared to start investigating really, because it's like a huge project. But they already developed the infrastructure for this, But basically what that does is it creates a type of like DRM structure for viewing and exhibiting media art.
Well, that's wonderful.
You look disappointed, or you look unhappy about it. What's the matter?
I think my brain has gone into coffee break time or something.
Oh.
But no, I've been in meetings since my goodness, 2.5 hours.
It's a long time to be in meetings.
Anyway, I'm happy to get back together, and it sounds like we're on the same page, and I'll continue to look at some of those things you gave me. Interesting ideas. And I will continue to look at fuse.io.
Yeah, because look at p5.js, because like this is
Yeah,
what artists use. So like
I've got it pulled up.
what if we started doing a thing where we like curate an exhibition of P5 artworks that are being served from an RChain testnet? Or this, or maybe, yeah, because it's all browser based. So like there's no like database. It's all using like client side stuff. So it's like we can serve it from a distributed server and then have it viewed through RCAT.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I want to look at the P5 some more. I like the idea. I'm getting more intrigued by the processing philosophy.
It's open source. Yeah, I mean they're basically like the creative code gurus now. Like the one guy that made it teaches at UCLA at their digital media or design media art program, Casey Reese, and he's really he's a great artist. He did does lots of really cool stuff, but the processing foundation is huge. And now my friend runs they have like these processing community days that happen all over the country. My friend runs the one in New York that they do in February, which is cool. So they just do like a day or two of like conferences and talks and lectures and demos and like all sorts of stuff. And it's just like trying to bring in like this really inclusive community of people from all over the place who are interested in creativity and coding,
Very interesting. We also need to look at that Orbit DB.
Dude, yeah, I'm really into it. I have this week basically free. So if you want to meet up again and talk about that stuff in more detail, I'm down. Just let me know when you'd be available, because I'm basically trying to just be at my studio every day, just working on stuff.
Okay, I've been thinking about doing that more often. Just saying I'm looking at such and such. Anybody want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be a bit more active on the Discord too. I'm like I never remember to pull Discord up, so I'm gonna try and like be more on Discord. I'm never on it.
Yeah, I watch Discord and Mattermost, but that's about all.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook too much. It's horrible.
Yeah, not so much for me. I have it, but yeah, it's you've got to start limiting, and the sad thing is I'm thinking about adding uh cat platforms to my inventory because some people I've heard are doing some stuff I want to look at. But anyway, I'll live through it. There's got to be a way, right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Later.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, right?
Bye.